I've been treating patients over 65 for more than 2 decades, and I can tell you, memory loss is one of the most common fears I hear. It's not just forgetting names or misplacing keys. It's that quiet question in the back of their minds: is this how it starts? Here's what I tell them, and what I'll tell you today. Some memory decline with age is normal. But cognitive decline is not inevitable. Your brain can stay sharp, active, and focused if you give it the right conditions to thrive. I've watched dozens of my patients actually improve their memory in their 60s, 70s, even 80s. With a handful of small science-backed habits that support brain health at its core. And today I'll share the 4 most powerful things my patients are doing, simple, proven strategies to protect their memory, boost mental clarity, and keep their minds sharp and independent for years to come. Because staying sharp isn't about luck. It's about taking the right steps, one day at a time. Let's start with the first one. Most people think of it as just physical, but it's one of the most powerful brain tools we have. Tip number 1. Move your body to wake up your brain. If there's one habit I've seen make the biggest difference in memory over time, it's this: daily movement. Not just for the heart, not just for the joints, but for the brain. I've treated hundreds of patients in their late 60s, 70s, even into their 80s. Some come in sharp, alert, and mentally quick. Others feel cloudy, forgetful, and disconnected. And one of the biggest differences I consistently find? Activity. See, your brain isn't just a thinking machine. It's also a blood-powered organ. Every time you move, you send fresh oxygen and nutrients rushing through your blood vessels, straight into your brain. That improves memory, attention, and even mood. In fact, multiple studies show that older adults who walk daily, even just 20 to 30 minutes, experience improved cognitive function, including better short-term memory and sharper verbal recall. Some research even suggests that exercise helps grow new brain cells in the hippocampus, the area responsible for memory. And it doesn't have to be complicated. One of my patients, Bernard, 73, started walking laps around his apartment building every morning. Nothing fancy. No gym membership. But after 3 weeks, he told me something I'll never forget. I don't lose my train of thought mid-sentence anymore. That's what movement can do. For seniors, I recommend walking, light dancing, gardening, or even just standing up every hour and stretching. The key is consistency over intensity. You don't need to run, you just need to move. It also boosts mood, reduces anxiety, and improves sleep, all of which are directly tied to mental clarity and memory. And here's something I always tell my patients who feel unmotivated. You're not exercising to get fit. You're exercising to stay sharp, to stay you. It reframes the habit, from something physical to something deeply personal. So if you're worried about memory, start by moving. Even a 10-minute walk after lunch can begin to rewire your brain for better focus and recall. This is the first, and maybe the most underestimated, habit I recommend to protect memory in older adults. Now let's move to the second one. It has nothing to do with movement, and everything to do with what's on your plate. Tip number 2, eat for your brain, especially these 3 nutrients. The second thing I focus on with my older patients isn't supplements or puzzles. It's food. Because the truth is, what you eat shapes how your brain performs. Every single bite either fuels your memory, or quietly works against it. Now, let me be clear. I'm not talking about fad diets or cutting out entire food groups. I'm talking about real nutrient-rich foods that support blood flow to the brain, reduce inflammation, and nourish the very cells responsible for memory and focus. There are 3 key nutrients I always look for in my patients' diets: omega-3s, antioxidants, and B vitamins. Let's start with omega-3 fatty acids. These are found in fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, or sardines. They help build and maintain the outer membrane of brain cells, making communication between neurons faster and smoother. I often tell patients, think of omega-3s as the brain's motor oil. If you're not getting enough, the engine slows down. Then we have antioxidants, found in berries, leafy greens, and colorful vegetables. These help protect the brain from oxidative stress, the same kind of damage that leads to age-related decline. I've had patients add a simple handful of blueberries to their breakfast and notice sharper thinking within a few weeks. Finally, B vitamins, especially B6, B12, and folate. These are essential for nerve function and mental clarity. Low levels, which are incredibly common in seniors, have been linked to memory loss and cognitive decline. You'll find B vitamins in things like eggs, whole grains, and leafy greens. And sometimes, if blood work shows a deficiency, I'll recommend a supplement. I once had a patient, Ruth, 81 years old, who told me she felt like she was thinking through fog. After a quick review of her diet, We realized she was skipping protein and barely eating vegetables. She started including grilled fish twice a week, added spinach to her eggs and swapped crackers for fruit. 3 weeks later, she looked me straight in the eye and said, "I feel like myself again." That's what good nutrition does. If you want to protect your memory, take a good look at what you're putting on your plate. Focus on color, variety, and foods that nourish, not numb. Because your brain isn't just powered by willpower or puzzles, it's powered by food. And next we'll talk about a habit that costs nothing, but may be the single most powerful way to protect your memory as you age. Tip number 3, protect your memory with stillness and sleep. If there's one area that gets ignored far too often in conversations about memory, it's rest. Not just sleep, but moments of stillness, quiet, downtime. Most seniors I see are surprised when I tell them this. Your brain doesn't store memories when you're busy, it stores them when you're resting. Sleep, in particular, is where the brain performs what I call mental housekeeping. It organizes thoughts, clears out toxins, and files away short-term information into long-term memory. If your sleep is shallow or broken, those files don't get stored properly. And the next day, you feel foggy, distracted, frustrated with yourself. One study found that adults over 60 who consistently sleep 7 to 8 hours a night perform significantly better on memory and attention tests compared to those with disrupted or short sleep. Now, I get it, sleep changes with age. You wake up more. Melatonin production dips. And many of my patients have trouble falling or staying asleep. But that's exactly why we work on creating habits that support the brain's natural sleep rhythm. Turning off bright screens 1 to 2 hours before bed. Avoiding caffeine after lunchtime. Keeping the bedroom cool and quiet. And even practicing deep breathing or light stretching before bed to signal the nervous system that it's time to rest. Stillness during the day also matters. I often ask patients, when was the last time you sat in complete silence for 5 minutes? No TV. No phone. Just breath and awareness. They usually laugh, and then admit it's been years. But studies are now showing that periods of quiet mindfulness, even just a few minutes a day, help reduce stress hormones that interfere with memory formation. Stress shrinks the hippocampus, the part of the brain that stores memory. Stillness protects it. One of my patients, George, 70, began meditating for 5 minutes each morning. He was skeptical, said he'd never been the spiritual type. But after a few weeks, he told me he didn't feel as scattered during the day. He could focus on conversations without drifting off in his head. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your memory isn't doing more, it's allowing your brain time to process, heal, and store. So if you want to stay mentally sharp, give your brain the rest it needs and the quiet it's missing. Next, we'll talk about the final habit, one I rarely hear discussed, but it's often the difference between mental decline and staying sharp well into your 80s. Tip number 4, keep learning. Your brain craves new challenges. One of the most effective, yet overlooked, ways to protect memory in older adults is this. Keep learning. Not because it's trendy, but because your brain literally needs new input to stay healthy. In the hospital, I've seen this play out time and again. I work with seniors every day, and there's a clear difference between those who stay mentally engaged and those who don't. The ones who are curious, who ask questions, who still enjoy solving problems or reading new material, they often remain sharper, even as their bodies slow down. Meanwhile, those who fall into overly repetitive routines, same TV shows, same meals, same conversations, tend to show faster cognitive decline. That's because the brain is an organ of adaptation. It thrives when you challenge it. There's a term we use in neuroscience, neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, form new connections, and even strengthen memory as we age. But it's a use it or lose it system. If the brain doesn't have new pathways to build, it slowly begins to break down the old ones. The Journal of Aging and Health published a study showing that older adults who regularly engaged in intellectual and creative activities, such as learning a new skill, playing a musical instrument, or even engaging in active discussion, performed better on memory tests over time. And this doesn't mean you need to go back to school. You just need to introduce novelty. The brain lights up when it encounters something unfamiliar, a new word, a new route to walk, a new recipe to cook. These little challenges activate the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, the exact areas responsible for memory and decision-making. One example I often give, switch which hand you use to brush your teeth. Sounds silly, but it forces your brain to adapt. That's neuroplasticity in action. Even reading a different genre of book than you're used to, or learning a few words of a new language can strengthen recall. And if you're able to discuss what you've learned with someone else, even better. Social interaction plus new information is one of the most powerful combinations we have for memory support. I also recommend writing by hand. It activates more areas of the brain than typing. Something as simple as keeping a daily journal about what you learned, read, or felt can build lasting memory pathways. According to Harvard Health Publishing, one of the most consistent predictors of cognitive resilience in older adults is lifelong learning, not formal but personal. Curious people stay sharp longer. So if you're serious about protecting your memory, don't just sit back and hope for the best. Lean in. Stay interested. Try something new. Surprise your brain, and it will reward you. That's how we keep it alive. Bonus tip: hydration, the silent memory booster. It's simple, often overlooked, and surprisingly powerful. Hydration. In hospitals, I often see older patients showing signs of confusion, dizziness, or sudden memory slips. And one of the first things we check? Their fluid intake. And time and again we find they're mildly dehydrated. As we age, the brain becomes more sensitive to drops in hydration. The body's thirst signals weaken, and many seniors simply don't feel thirsty, even when their brain needs water. But the effects are real. Dehydration causes the brain to shrink slightly, impairing concentration, slowing down recall, and even increasing the risk of delirium in more serious cases. A study published in Nutrients found that even mild dehydration, as little as 1 to 2% body weight lost through fluid, can impair short-term memory and attention in older adults. The fix isn't complicated. I tell my patients to aim for 6 to 8 glasses of water per day, more if they're on certain medications or spending time in the sun. Herbal teas, broth, and water-rich foods like cucumbers or oranges also count toward that total. If you're feeling sluggish, forgetful, or mentally slow, don't reach for caffeine or sugar. Start with a glass of water. Keeping your brain sharp isn't just about stimulation, it's about support. And hydration is one of the easiest, most overlooked tools you have. So there you have it. 4 of the most effective research-backed habits I recommend to keep your memory sharp after 65, plus one bonus tip that too many people overlook. We talked about movement, nutrition, deep rest, lifelong learning, and hydration. These aren't quick fixes. They're daily decisions. But I've seen firsthand, in hospitals, in clinics, and in my own patients, how much impact they can have. And here's the truth I always remind people of. Your brain wants to stay sharp. You just have to give it the chance. So if you found this helpful, and you want clear, practical advice from a doctor who actually works with seniors, make sure to subscribe to this channel, Vital Steps. Each week I'll be here with new ways to help you think clearly, move confidently, and live independently. No guesswork, no gimmicks. I'm Dr. James Rowe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.